Welcome back to another edition of Quadrant 2 Project Management. I'm Kurt Bell, your Q2 PM. Quadrant 2, of course, refers to the idea of focusing on issues that are important and not crucial or not urgent, so that we can avoid fire drills in the future if we don't give them the attention that they need early enough. So with that in mind, we try to document our projects sufficiently that we capture all of our requirements, identify the levels of effort, and then lay out a plan so that we can execute the project with a realistic idea about what needs to be done, who's going to be involved, and when they can expect to see things complete. So let's go to the screen. Right now we have the phased project charter. We're still working on that. We're on step 4 now in our methodology. Just a quick recap. Step 1, of course, is the business case. Step 2 is the project proposal. Step 3 is the pre-project evaluation review. So those 2 steps are part of the pre-project evaluation. We don't even have a project yet when we're taking out the business case and the proposal. Once we have the handshake between the customer and the agency that, yep, they picked one of the options and that's the one they want, that's when we have a project. Still no signature. The signature comes after this particular document is complete. So let's take a look at it. We've got about 30 minutes to cover a bit of information, so let's go. Phase Project Charter, Department of Public Social Services, Windows 10. Again, we're upgrading all agency Windows operating systems from Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 to Windows 10. There's our legend. Scroll on down. We're going to go past the business case, which we reviewed in the first lesson. Remember, we're identifying the business problem we seek to solve. Moving on down, now we're into the project proposal. That's where we took the problem back to the agency or our company if you're a private sector organization, come up with some solutions, pick a recommended one, show the pros and the cons and the assumptions, and pick one. And if you do a good job of this, I find that the customer usually picks the one you recommend. Here's our timeline. Notable, of course, no dates, just levels of effort. We told the customer that we would need 4 months for planning and 4 months for engineering, with about 2 or 3 months of that concurrent. And then we'd need another 6 months of testing, followed by 4 months of deployment. And by the way, if you've ever thought about using sources of information to help you come up with these numbers, I highly recommend the firm Gartner. They are the research firm that I used to basically determine good recommendations for testing phase. That's how I came up with the 6 months, and that really turned out to be a good advice. So kudos to you, Gartner, for helping us to come up with good estimates of what we needed for testing. Commercial complete. Not a sponsor. I'm just a big fan of Gartner. Okay, moving down, we have our project deliverables. We have 11 items within scope. Let's just make that a little bit bigger. 11 items. Let me just dwell on that. You guys are going to get tired of me saying if we were buying a truck at the dealership, that's what we would be getting with the truck. 11 items. Item number, description, title, description, and then who is responsible, us or them being the customer. This is so important. This is the key to everything. If you make a good list of deliverables, you're going to have a very healthy project, especially if you clearly define your deliverables and define who's going to do that work. I'm dwelling on this because this is what's going to inform us as we make the project plan, and then later what we're going to refer back to when we have our project completion meeting. Scrolling on down a few more pieces, now we're getting to the meat of today's session, the project plan. Now you might be wondering, why don't you just get busy and get to the project plan right off the bat? Well, if we don't know what problem we have to solve and we don't know exactly what it's going to take to solve it, our plan isn't going to be a very good plan. So you could jump right ahead and start making the project plan, but I would tell you that it's kind of like making a Lewis and Clark trying to cross America with a map made out of crayons. It would be much better to spend a little more time in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian Institution. Did the Smithsonian Institution exist in Lewis and Clark's day?
I can't confirm that.
I don't know that. But it would be a lot better if they would spend a season sitting there actually researching the wild, wild west before they set off in their canoes. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Section C, project plan. Project charter. The following may be completed as part of this document or sent via email to the identified project team members. The format takes the form of an email message. The email should be sent by the project sponsor. Let's level set on terms. If you Google project charter, you're going to get all kinds of things. Some people think a project charter is the business case. Some think it's the plan. Some think it's just a paragraph that summarizes what we're going to do. I settled on the definition of the charter as being the actual communication from the empowering agent, the man or woman with the sword that they're going to bless you with tap you on the shoulder and say, I make you sir or Madam Knight, telling you this project is starting. That is the charter. So that's all we have here, and it's an email. I actually format it as an email. Now at this point, I've got people's names identified. This is the first time you're seeing people's names. I've taken out their last name to preserve the innocent. Here's the email. Project Manager, Chris R. DPSS Sponsor, Sherry S. RCIT Sponsor, Gil M. And then a date. And the date is still in blue as a template because that would vary. That would actually be put into place the day I send it out. Here's the email. This email would be sent to everyone who will be identified a little further down as a member of the team. You have been identified as a resource for the following project. This charter serves to announce the initiation of the Windows 10 DPSS project. We are undertaking this project to upgrade all remaining in-scope non-C4 or CWS CMS workstations and laptops to Windows 10. Chris Rodriguez has been selected to lead this project. Cindy G. and Kurt Bell are additional project managers. Please provide your complete cooperation during the project. Additional information about this project will be forthcoming in the Project Kickoff Meeting and via your project team lead. Thank you, Sherry S., Gilbert M. Now, what I actually do is I actually show this to the Sherry S. and Gil M. And I say, I'm going to send this to you, Sherry, Ms. S. and Ms. G, Mr. M. And I would like to request you to send the email. This email is going to come from them to the team. And I'm going to give you a list of everybody to send it to. This has an empowering effect, right? As soon as you see an executive sending you an email, you're going to take notice and you're going to read it. And you're going to know this project's a thing. And I've got somebody high up watching. That's all that is. So now the project begins. Now this rest of this is not in the email. Okay, the rest of this I'll cover in the kickoff meeting which will follow. Important dates and milestones. Identify important dates and milestones as well as the potential impact of missing these, if any. Estimated project completion date, 7/31/2019. Major milestones. Project start, 7/4. Planning phase complete, and I won't read all the dates, but you can see that we now have laid out all the significant milestones that will be executed as we perform this project, from project start to planning, engineering, testing, pilot testing, deployment, closure, and project completion. You'll also see that just down at the bottom there's this external milestones affecting the project, completion of DPSS hardware refresh project, 10/31/2018. In fact, for this particular project, although we excluded it, it was identified as an external milestone. We wound up incorporating it into the project. So I brought that into the project, identified it as a project change, and allowed the project executives, sponsors, to accept it in, and it added an additional a lot of time to the project. So that wasn't a slip. Just keep that in mind. That's not technically a slip. And it's, sorry if I say I'm dwelling on things. These are really important things. If I had not, or if we, the project managers, had not identified completion of DPSS hardware refresh project as an external milestone, I would not have had a very good case when it came up that, boy, we really like you to have you do this in your project, Kurt. Right? They'd be saying, well, why wasn't it included in the first place? Well, it wasn't included in the first place because we knew that it was a big bit of work that we didn't estimate the time for. And I pointed that out right here. So when it was brought in, they said, well, okay, well, however much time it took them to do it, why don't you do it? You can add that to the project, right? Okay, great. Now they're leading me, and I'm getting the sponsor to tell me a good rationale for adding time. All right, how are we doing on time? About 15 minutes. Impact of late delivery. Late image delivery will impact testing and deployment resource availability and site coordination planning. That's just one simple dependency. The image, of course, is the Windows 10 image. We have to customize it, and if they didn't deliver that on time, all else falls behind. Risk plan. Remember earlier in the project proposals, we talked about that, we would have a risk plan? Well, here's the details, not much. The project manager is responsible to collect and manage project risks such that a risk response is identified and the risk may be closed. Risk will be recorded in the SharePoint risk log. Image development plan. Now, all of the plans that follow from here have the same syntax, the same structure. There's a title of the plan, identification of who's responsible to do it, a short summary, and then a hyperlink. Because early on, when we were coming up with all of our estimates, I asked these responsible parties, give me a plan. Now, I took my glasses off and stared them straight in the face. And I said, I'm not going to take your word for it. I want a plan. Give me a plan. I gave them all templates. I said, fill out this template. And they sent it back. That's why all of these hyperlinks that you see will go to their plan. Because that's not my responsibility. What do I know about making a Windows 10 image? What do I know about a test plan or a training plan? I don't know these things. I'm just a lowly project manager. These subject matter experts know how to do it, and I want it in writing. So, first one, image development plan. Image development lead, Lyle B. A development plan will be created by the RCIT development lead and filed within the project team. The development plan will include IT and smoke testing phases. And there's a link right there to see that actual plan. Now you're going to see the same structure over and over. I can go a little bit quickly through this. Application test plan, test lead, Chris R. Testing will take place over the following 2 phases. User acceptance testing, performed after development is complete to ensure basic functionality and goals have been met. Pilot testing, performed with a select population of users for the purpose of further evaluation and improvement. And there's a click to open the plan. Support plan. Patrick S. is the lead for that. A little more verbiage here. RCIT has developed a special ServiceNow template to use in identifying issues related to Windows 10. Tier 1 support staff will be tasked to address such issues before escalating to Tier 2 support. DPSS staff development has already provided special delivery of their training course at RCIT for over 3 separate sessions to ensure all RCIT help desk staff are trained. There's the plan. Now we added that extra language there because in the past we might have situations where a problem comes in and whoa, what if we didn't train the team, right? Okay, what if we created this Windows 10 image? By team, I mean the support staff, right? Because they've got their own little house down on the first floor, right? What if up on the 3rd floor we create the Windows 10 image and we start deploying it to the field? They've never seen Windows 10 and people start calling in and saying, hey, my Windows 10 is broken. Well, it's not their fault they don't know how to fix it. Because they don't even know what we're doing. So we had to make sure that we trained our support people so that they know what they're doing, right? So and now Windows 10 is easy because it's a pretty easy operating system. But we also had to put in place an escalation protocol. You can see the Tier 1, Tier 2 call out. No issues are going to come up to the Tier 2 sysadmins unless they've first gone through the Tier 1 mainline support. And also we called out that we have an issue tracking system in ServiceNow, and we're going to use that as well so we don't miss anything. Any questions at this point? Yep. Great. Logistics deployment plan. Logistics simply is the term that refers to the fact that we are one building here at RCIT, and the County of Riverside is like this. We've got like 50 offices scattered all over the darn place. We have to have some logistical plan to send the team in vans to this office and then this office and then this office, and then when some are going to go and break off and go into different, suites or at a particular site. That's logistics, right? It's field services. Logistics deployment plan. The deployment lead is Ignacio. A project deployment plan will be created by the RCIT development lead and filed within the project team site. Click to open. There it is. And I wonder if, I think I can go ahead and open that. Let me just go ahead and do that real quick so you can see what one of these looks like. Because all that's going to have is a list of sites that we're going to visit. And it's just addresses. And these addresses are all public addresses. Oh, that's actually there we go. Yep, there's a list of all the deployment, the hardware, the imaging risk, and the communication plan. So that's not the list that I thought it would be, but this is the list of their deployment plan. That's what I get for being impromptu in a moment. Okay, let's get back to it. Communications plan, and we have about 10 minutes left. Communications lead, Cindy G. Communications are key. That's why there's so much language here. Communications will be handled through cooperation between RCIT and DPSS for the purpose of drafting and distributing communications to the appropriate audiences. Communications with DPSS users will take place as needed throughout the project development and deployment cycles. Additional project communication will be the responsibility of the RCIT project manager, who will be tasked with communication to the team for meeting notes, status reports, and issue and risk escalation. Click to open the plan. Now you might want to come up with a RACI diagram, describing the different types of audiences that you have and what type of information that they need to get. Maybe are they just a need to know? Do they need to be, are they decision makers that have to make that call? That will help also to come up with your communication plan, but this is important. And your project's going pretty well when you're not getting a lot of people who are popping up all of a sudden saying, no one told me. Training plan, training lead, Jackie B. Training will be developed and delivered by DPSS staff development working in conjunction with the RCIT development team. Training will be delivered via instructor-led courses delivered on-site at DPSS facilities. So the Department of Social Services has their own instructor, they have their own school basically. And so when we started the project up, we reached out to them and said, hey, please send someone over, one or two people to work with us, come up with a training plan and content, and they did. Okay, those are the plans. I really highly recommend that if you've got people who are responsible for deliverables, get them to write a plan. You'll be glad you did. They'll be glad they did. Project team, hey, we've got actual human beings' names here, but I took all the last names out. These are all of the people that are part of the project at this time. This list will grow, and their relative responsibility. If the list grows, you don't have to come back and add new names to this list. In fact, don't do that. Once you get this document done and it's signed, don't be changing it. Of course, you can't change the signed document. Just add the new names to the project roster in SharePoint. So if this is everything from, and I usually order this from most responsibility down to least responsibility. DPSS executive sponsor is here, the RCIT executive, the BRMs, the assets, staff development, apps development, project managers, systems administrators, field services folks, help desks, systems administrators, application testing, and licensing. They're all there. Not in terms of importance, but in terms of typically responsibility and scope of interest. Okay, last little bits here. Riverside County Information Department, Technology Department support. If you've got a big, complicated IT organization like we do, it's good maybe to list out each of the major divisions of that organization and the units within that division, and just at least ask yourself and your team, does anybody in that unit need to know? Because it's going to haunt you if you forget to ask somebody and they come to you later knocking on the door saying, why didn't you talk to me? I've got something important to tell you about the thing you're about to do, and you're about to do it wrong. Right? So this checklist right here does just that. So we have our Technical Services Bureau, and I got together with all the leads and I said, does help desk need to know? Yes. Does field support need to know? Yes. Core services? Yes. How about our CI3? No. Infrastructure? Yes. And then for the Enterprise Applications Bureau, the Departmental Solutions Division needed to know, because we have custom applications that we've built that, guess what? They have to run on Windows 10. What if we designed applications that ran on Windows 7, and then we go out and we upgrade somebody's computer and we try to install the application that we built for them on their computer and it doesn't work? Oh boy. How do I'm looking at a couple of application developers right here. How long does it take to remediate applications in that capacity? Yeah, and then test them and make sure they, wow. Yeah, that's a real monkey wrench. So the way we handle that is we make sure we ask that group, what applications are you aware of that you have that are out there in the field that will need to be remediated? And we did have some. In fact, we had about 4 applications that we had to wholesale for this project, wholesale rebuild the applications, because I think they were in Java or something like that, and we had to move them out of Java into a new, what do you guys call that when you move it into a new language? A new language. A language what? Programming. A new programming language, right? In order to support better security, the whole thing. Last little bit here. Converged Communications Bureau, networks, wires, routers, stuff like that. Those guys didn't need to know. So, at least that's what they told me. Licensing, did licensing need to know? Did licensing ever need to know? Of course they need to know, right? I mean, you're taking, 10,000 people, and bumping them up their Microsoft licensing. What does the enterprise agreement say we can do, So yeah, they were integral to that. And then last of all, we didn't do this with this particular one, but you could get each of those bureau reps to initial or sign off. These are the leaders of those 3 bureaus. And you go to those leaders and say, I went to all of your units, and we've identified, will you sign off that we did our due diligence, right? I actually do that with this one. Because they were so intimately involved. And some of them were the sponsors. We're down to 5 minutes. And that's okay, because now we get 2 signatures. Now that's the end of the document. Ta-da! Okay, so, oh wow, and there's people's names.
Those are online, actually. So.
That's right. You know what? And all of those people are public-facing people.
Yeah.
That's right. And some of them are retired.
True.
That's right. So we're safe. So basically, at that point, when I do this, I have a presentation, very formal, very structured presentation. I do exactly what I just did right there. We get everybody in the room. I make sure everybody's there. I want everybody that's going to sign this document to be there. I'll schedule the meeting. I'll send them an email ahead of time. I'll call them the day before. I'll do whatever I can to make sure they're there, because when we're done, I have a hard copy of that thing. I'm going to pass it around with a nice black pen, and I'm going to have each one of them sign it. I'm going to say, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We have a project. And I go back and I put that in a safe thing in my locked file cabinet. Can never be touched, right? And not for punitive purposes, because that's the contract, right? We should protect a contract. And I tell them, our next steps, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask our sponsors, Ms. S and Mr. M, to send out the charter email to all the people that are going to be a part of it. Then I'm going to be arranging a kickoff meeting. This is not the kickoff meeting. This was the agreement of a project meeting. Then we're going to have a kickoff meeting. A kickoff meeting is going to be fun, and that's the next thing we're going to talk about in our next lesson. That's where we actually invite all of these people that were named in the project, and maybe more as well, because as soon as you start contacting those people in the name, they're going to say, well, Frank and Mary and whatever need to be there too. And we'll we'll pick a big room like this one here and get as many people as we possibly can in there, and we'll winnie them out as we can, as long as the people that are listed are there and ready to go. That's it. Any questions?
Yep.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you for joining us for these lessons. We really appreciate your participation. Now, these sessions are available recorded on YouTube as well as in Core Learning. And if you're a County of Riverside employee, you can go through these lessons and get certified as a Q2PM project manager or product manager. Who knows? And we'd love to have you join, adopt this process. If you have questions, please email me, kbell@rivco.org. It should be coming across the screen somewhere down there, and I'd be happy to work with you. If you're out there, if you see this out there on the interwebs, hey, if you've ever thought about being a project manager, you ever thought about living in Southern California, ever thought about working for the government, maybe give us a thought. It's not such a bad thing. It's not your grandfather's government work. There's a lot of good stuff going on, and it's a good chance to do a lot of good in the world. So go ahead and send me an email or check our job listings. I'd be happy to talk to you. And with that, we're going to close. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great day and make every meeting matter.